if you're an American, there really should be no separation between the protectors and the protected. That's why I'm not really a huge fan of the whole sheepdog meme. I understand it, and I've even used it a few times, but we're not supposed to be a nation of sheep. We're supposed to be a nation where every single able-bodied man is the militia. And in modern America, ladies too. Okay, you got a role to play. Every one of you is, first of all, charged with your own self-defense. Just reality. Tonight, when you go home and you walk in your front door, is there going to be a cop standing next to you in case there's a home invader in the house? No, it's going to be you. You're responsible. If you're a parent, you're responsible for your children. You're the defender of your family. But you're also responsible for your fellow American, for your fellow man. So you must be willing and able to secure yourselves at any public event. I'm preaching to the choir today. A lot of you are carrying guns. We are able to take care of ourselves. We should never, ever see what happened at UC Berkeley ever happen again. There should never be an example of the police standing down and watching while a couple is beaten like that, with a woman begging for help and no one's coming to her aid. If the cops won't do it, we will. So our motto now, our motto for Oath Keepers has always been not on our watch. But to that we've added, when the cops stand down, we stand up. Okay? Now when they stand up, we stand down. We're still there. So here's the good news about Berkeley PD. So March the 4th, when we watched the videos of them standing back, letting the brawl happen, like some kind of mass mosh pit or UFC in the park, we gave them an F. My police professionals, like John Kerriman, I said, John, what kind of grade do you give the Berkeley PD? He said, F. Failure, absolute failure.
That's generous.
Oh yeah, F minus, right? So then April 15th we were there, they did better. I think it's because we were there. They knew they had brother police officers, some of them current serving California cops, on their day off for free, were standing in the park. How embarrassing would it be for the Berkeley PD to have off-duty California cops and retired California cops doing their job for them in the park? Pretty embarrassing. A lot of pressure on them. They knew they had brother officers in the park, and they also knew that these, I got an old retired sheriff deputy. He's not going to let somebody cave in his head with a bike lock or kick his head in. He's going to pull his pistol out. They're going to go away. He's going to drop them like a bad habit. So I think it was a combination of several things. The moral pressure on the police officers, because they knew that other professionals, other police officers were watching. You can't pull wool over our eyes. We know when you're messing up. They also knew they had backup in that park, that if things went bad, we told them, despite the ridiculous rules they had put upon us, we let them know that, hey, look, if one of your officers is being attacked, we're gonna come to his aid. And they knew we meant it, okay? And then they saw our professional behavior in the park. It forced them to up their ante. They did better that day. Inside the park, they did a pretty good job of staying between us. Once the Antifa backed off, they actually came in. Berkeley PD came in, disarmed the Antifa of all their poles and axe handles and clubs, and forced them to take them out of the park. And then after that, they kept the two sides separated. So inside the park, they did a pretty good job. Out in the streets, still not so good. You've probably seen the videos of the cops sitting there in the car being asked, well, why aren't you guys doing something? And they're like, you got to talk to our chief. And they're pretty clearly upset. So we gave them a C+ that day. John said, hey, it's a C+. Better than it was, but not as good as it could be. April 27th, we came back again. This time, they brought their A game. We didn't have to do anything. We just had a good day in the park, enjoyed all the speeches, didn't have to take any actions. Antifa black block, or tried to black block up around the corner. The cops stopped them. They couldn't even get anywhere near the park. That's the way to do it. I think our presence there, with the 3%ers and the bikers and everybody else that was there too, and with Kyle Chapman and the Proud Boys and all the rest of the folks that jumped in, our presence, letting them know that it's not going to go down like that anymore. That unless you do your jobs, you're going to wind up with Antifa getting their butts kicked into the street again, which is what happened April 15th out in the street. They got their butts handed to them. I think the mayor probably realized that he has to protect Antifa by letting the police do their job, because otherwise they'd have been, you know, like Kyle Chapman said, we'll stomp a mud hole in their asses, and they knew it. Anyway, they did their job. I was happy. We're glad we don't have to put hands on anybody. We're not out there, we're not bloodthirsty, we're not looking to smash people and act like tough guys. We're just trying to keep folks safe. So we have been successful now, thankfully. 6 major marches or major events across the country. Last one was Portland, Oregon. And then all the Act for America rallies, you know, I won't say how many we were at, that's kind of OPSEC, but we were at the majority of them. There were 27 events across the country. My main point, though, is that the tide has changed. The tide's turned. Antifa cannot shut down a conservative rally in this country anymore because the people won't let them. It's kind of led to what I call the fighting audience. The audience is wearing helmets and fight gloves and mouthpieces and homemade shields, and they're ready to go. And I've heard some people criticize them and call it cosplay. It's not cosplay when you got real terrorists threatening to kill you who might show up with an AK. Okay, that's not cosplay. I like what I see. I think it's great. So at the Boston rally, I led a chant where I just said, "Thank you, Antifa." Everybody joined in. Thank you, Antifa, because they have actually gotten Americans to become Americans again. I think a lot of them would have gone to sleep with Trump in office. We've seen this before, right? A lot of conservatives tend to go to sleep during the Republican administration, and they're like fat, happy frogs in the pie, with the water being turned up little by little. I'm glad the radical left has gone full retard and full terrorist as far as trying to beat people in the streets, because it's gotten us off our rear ends and kept us active. So the more, and when I was at Boston, I saw a lot of the organizers were young 17-year-old kids. 17, 18 years old. One of them didn't have a driver's license yet. I looked at them, and they looked like my son, a computer geek. I thought that was awesome, standing there with homemade shields. That's great. Bring them out. It's our job, like I told the guys in Boston, us older veterans, retired cops, it's our duty to pass on our skills. Every one of you that served in the military, served in police forces, or EMTs or firefighters, whatever your skill set is, you've got skills that really belong to the American people, right? They were trained by the U.S. government or by your state or county government. You owe those skills to the next generation. So you must pass them on. Your motto must be, each one teach one. You take on your little young Padawan, like the Jedis in Star Wars, and make sure you pass on your skills so your skills don't die with you. So it's incredibly important. Like I said, the more well trained you are, the higher your obligation. I've had some resistance even inside of Oath Keepers. Why are we doing this kind of stuff? Let the cops handle it. They're forgetting the founder's design. The founder's design was no separation between the people and the obligation to serve as the posse or as the militia. You're the military power, you are the law enforcement power, right? It's not, we didn't even have professional police back then. What they have?
The militia.
They had the militia, or there'd be the hue and the cry would go up, and a sheriff could raise a posse, but everyone's expected just to turn out. If the bells rang and they knew there was a fugitive out there, the hue and the cry would go up, and there was their duty to grab their hatchet and their musket and go outside and go help. So what we saw in Watertown when they were searching for the bombers was perverse and disgusting, frankly. The exact opposite of the founder's design. Rather than everybody being treated like a third world serf and being, walked out of their house at gunpoint with their hands raised in the air with the SWAT teams in the street, what it should have been is they all should have grabbed their firearms and with their flashlights or whatever they needed and gone on the street and found the guy.
Right.
Because the locals know who belongs and who doesn't.
You know what's ironic about that? Is even though the entire town of Watertown, with all the police, all the SWAT teams, who actually discovered Tsarnaev in his boat? An average guy in his own home.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what he's talking about, that we must all be vigilant.
You're right. And that's exactly what I was going to say next. You kind of stole my thunder. That's okay. But you're right. It was all that display of, militarized police power and MRAPs and the SWAT teams did no good at all. It was because the guy knew his own backyard and knew when something was out of place. That's who discovered him. So it just goes to show you what really works. And in Oath Keepers, we have a program called CPT, which stands for Community Preparedness Teams. And the model we use for this is one model we use is the Special Forces model of a trainer, a group of guys who are trainers, first and foremost, to go and train people. But another model I like to use, which I think is even better, is what the Marines call the CAP program in Vietnam. How many guys know about that? Raise your hands. Oh, that's terrible. It stood for Combined Action Platoon. And what this was is they took 12 average grunt Marines and a corpsman and a sergeant, so 14 guys, stuck them in a village. They lived in the village 24/7, 365 with the villagers as part of the village. And they paired that one Marine squad with 3 squads of village militia, which usually was like the old men and the young boys because everybody else had been drafted in the South Vietnamese Army, all the young fighting age males. So they had the old guys in the 3 squads of old guys, old fishermen, 1 squad of Marines. That's your combined action platoon. But they were very effective because the villagers knew who belonged and who didn't. They knew all the trails in and out. The Marines, because they lived there, got to know everybody, got to know who belonged and who didn't, got to know all the trails in and out. So they became like the locals in their knowledge, like we were talking about. And it wasn't like a high-speed, low-drag SF team of elite warriors and trained to be trainers. These are just average Marine grunts, but they are extremely effective because they occupied the space. And they turned the paradigm on the VC. Now the VC had to try to infiltrate in the middle of the night against ambushes being set up in roving patrols and being worried about being caught, rather than the Marines walking into ambushes trying to patrol villages. So flipped it. Look at that as your model. In your neighborhood, you are the cap. You're the squad of Marines or the one fire team, or if it's just 2 of you, you're a buddy team. See yourselves as if you've just been parachuted in, and your job and obligation is to organize your neighborhood in being able to protect itself, period. That's your most important effort you can do right now. Nothing else is as important as that, aside from getting your mind right and get yourself spiritually squared away, obviously. But as far as your activities, that's more important than anything else. Now, here's another reason why. Every cop lives in a neighborhood. Every firefighter lives in a neighborhood. Every EMT, every nurse, every doctor lives in a neighborhood, right? If that neighborhood's not secure during times of civil unrest, are they going to leave their homes and their families and go do their job, or are they going to stay home and take care of mom and the kids? You know the answer to that question already. We've seen it before. They will desert their post and stay home and protect their family. If you don't make sure their neighborhood's safe, they can't go out and do their jobs. That's why that's the most important thing you can be doing. Now, I do encourage you to go out to these rallies. I do encourage you to organize yourselves into security elements and go and practice. You learn what works and what doesn't. You'll get more united. You'll find out who you can rely on and who you can't. Some guys are big talkers online. When it comes time to show up with a helmet on their head and some friggin', fight clubs on their hands, all of a sudden they're not there. And other guys that are kind of quiet, they show up. You never know, okay? And ladies too. You'll find out. Call it a gut check. You'll find out who really is serious, who you can rely on, who you can't, okay? And the guys that don't show up, I wouldn't forsake them. Give them a chance. Let them know how well it went. Lessons learned. Bring them in and have them go to the next one. You got to get Americans back to being Americans again. And not all of them can do it right this second, Some of them will let their fears, they'll take counsel of their fears. I had 2 leaders in Oregon resign over this when we went to Portland, Oregon. They took counsel of their fears. They said, it's going to be a trap. We're going to be overwhelmed. We're going to be surrounded. You could be arrested. Our guys could be arrested. All that's possible. But they forgot what's most important. In the military, we were taught, and all of you that serve military know what I'm saying. What comes first? Is it your own safety? Mission comes first. My grandpa fought in the Battle of the Bulge. My father-in-law fought on Iwo Jima. They didn't put their safety first. mission comes first. The mission comes first, then the men. Then the leader puts himself last. That's what I told the guys from Oregon. Your obligation as a leader is to lead by your example, lead from the front, and be there in person. And yes, you need to care for your men. Do your very best for them. But the mission comes first. And their mission is their oath. You can't let other people who have requested your help be defenseless against assault in some public park. I'd rather be dead than let that happen on my watch, knowing that I failed to go and do my duty. So mission comes first. Duty is ours, results are God's. So mission's first, then you worry about doing it as safely as you can. I worry all the time. But at every one of these, I've gone in person. I made it a point. I flew all the way to Dallas and did a PSD for a lady who's had death threats because I want to make sure that everyone knows that I'm not going to ask them to do anything that I won't do myself, okay? I don't have to be at every single one of them, but I expect my local leaders to have the same spirit. And I encourage you, whether you're in 3%ers, you're in some biker club, I don't care what group you're in, it doesn't matter. If you're a leader, you have to lead from the front. You must lead by your example, okay? And you got to put mission first. And that also means being willing to work with other people and other groups as a coalition. And I told my guys, there's only 30,000 Oath Keepers in this country. There aren't that many of us. So there's an SF motto the Special Forces uses that says they can't dominate the battle space, they can't dominate the terrain, but they can shape it. And that's the attitude that we have. When I bring in even a handful of Oath Keepers that are retired police officers or very experienced infantry veterans, there's no way they can provide security for an entire event. Like right now, imagine we're all in a public park, this is our element. It's going to be a combined force element, right? Different groups. The Oath Keepers, what they bring to the table we have a lot of cops, we have some very experienced military operators. So our job is to be good mentors, good advisors, and good liaisons with the police, make sure things go smoothly. We're not there to dominate, we're not there to try to order everybody around, we're there to help. And I've encouraged my guys to have that spirit of service, and so far it's gone pretty well. Other than the white nationalists who hate our guts because we're not white nationalists, every real patriot organization out there, 3%ers and bikers, etc., we've gotten along pretty dang well. Because we respect them and their leadership, they respect our knowledge and our experience, and we work well together. And that's what I encourage you all to do. The more experienced you are, the greater your level of obligation and duty, but make sure it's not trying to be the big boss and try to lord it over other guys. Make sure it's a spirit of it being the sound advisor and sage counsel, and then leading by your example. So I want to thank you all very much and appreciate you having me out here. And I want to say thanks to all the Oath Keepers here. God bless you guys. Hey, Steve.